basketball.
It is.
Cheap.
All right, here we go. We got to talk some basketball. Heat Celtics Game 3 Saturday night. Series squared at a game apiece coming in. Miami had something to say about that. Rebounding in a big way from that Game 2 debacle. Miami led by 26 in the first half. Jaylen Brown did everything he could to get Boston back in this. 40 points, helping the Celtics pull within one. It wasn't enough, though. Heat hold on for a 2-1 series lead. We got to talk about Jason Tatum. 10 points on 3 of 14 shooting as he fought through a shoulder injury late in the game. Broussard, how much blame should Tatum take for this loss?
Well, a lot, Jenna. And look, if Jason Tatum doesn't get it together, I'm going to be sitting where Nick is in a few days with foot squarely in mouth, okay? So, JT, you got to get it together, my man. But I will credit him this way, Wilds. He did wear it, right? He took the blame. Like, one thing about Jason Tatum, he will go to the podium and admit, I've got to be better. He did it after Game 1. He's doing it after Game 3. But I'd like him to have to quit having to do it, okay? Just go out and play well. And Wilds, it seemed like Tatum was not engaged. It's one thing to shoot poorly, and Nick brought it up last week. They're 6-0 when Tatum shoots 50% or more. So obviously, when he hits shots, they're basically unbeatable. But you're going to have nights where you miss some shots. He was 3 for 14. But, Nick, I didn't think he was engaged. And look at these first 2 turnovers that he had. They are just boneheaded mistakes. Like, pull up for the mid-range shot. That's all you have to do. Both of these. You can pull up. You have space. Just pull up. You got a nice touch for the short mid-range jumper on both of those. He had room to do it. Instead, makes bad passes. Yep. And, Nick, in the 2 quarters that really decided the game, the first quarter, they got blown away. He had, I believe, 0 points, 0 for 2, only 1 foul. So he was just out there. He wasn't even committing fouls. He was just out there floating around. And then in the fourth quarter, when they made this comeback, got within a point, he had 1 point in the fourth quarter and 3 turnovers. In fact, after Jaylen Brown got him within a point with about 2.5 minutes left, after a Bam Adebayo bucket, Tatum makes another turnover, and that was essentially the game. So he's in club superstar. I know you're not kicking him out, but he's got to be more consistent. His C- game, Nick, they win this game. If he has his C- game, they're up 2-1.
Yeah, well, listen, Tatum was obviously awful, and you mentioned he's good about taking responsibility when he's awful. You wish he wouldn't have so much practice at it. I mean, he's had a few truly terrible playoff games. Game 3 against Milwaukee was really awful. This one was somehow worse. You did mention he didn't even get called for a foul. That might not have been because of lack of intensity. That might have been because the referees decided Boston wasn't going to be called for fouls. With a minute left in this game, Boston had a 27-5 free throw edge. So let's go through the circumstances here. Jimmy Butler misses the entire second half. Tyler Hero's terrible. Boston is getting all of the calls. They have the emotion of home court, the added emotion of both Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum doing their best Paul Pierce imitations of, is that a career-ending injury? Oh, wait, he's actually going to miss less time than a hockey shit. They had all of that going, and they couldn't win. That is a devastating loss for Boston, and maybe more importantly, Wilds, at what point is the general media going to come around to the idea maybe Miami's really good? Are they going to have to be up 3-2 in the NBA Finals? Are they going to have hoisted the trophy before people are like, this team that won the conference 2 years ago, that was the number 1 seed this year, that just won a game without their only superstar playing in the second half on the road in Boston, maybe that team knows what they're doing. Maybe we focus a little too much, and I was guilty of this early in the playoffs as well, about where Gabe Vincent and Max Strus were or weren't drafted, and not enough of the fact that they have Victor Oladipo coming off the bench, that they split the first 2, despite the fact that Bam Adebayo hadn't played well. They're up 2-1 on Boston Wilds. Kyle Lowry's played one game and didn't look healthy. Jimmy Butler's missed a half. Bam has only played one game well. Hero hasn't been great. And they're up 2-1 on Boston. I understand at times Heat culture gets irritating to hear about it, but I'm telling you right now, they've got to get credit for what they're accomplishing. So to me, this is more about Miami trying to announce to the world we're damn good than about Boston not winning.
Okay. Miami has played 2 awesome quarters, and the Celtics haven't showed
nonsense.
Up. It's not nonsense. So Tim Bontemps put this on Twitter, and I said, man, is that true? And, Nick, we argued about this, I think, maybe 2 years ago. You were trying to make a case on how good a series was going because one team was winning the quarters. And I was like, you know what? I'm not an arcade. I don't care about the quarters. I care about the whole game. Well, I've come around to your side now. It took me 2 years, but now I do believe in the quarters. Can we put up the graphic on how the Celtics have been playing in quarter? They've won 7 quarters, they've tied 3, and they've lost 2. Both of the quarters that they lost, and I'll throw it to you, Nick, have been by 20-plus points. Yeah. Not great, but after that, they're either in it, playing it to even, or they're winning. So there's a feeling when you watch these games, if you didn't watch those 2 quarters, which are, don't get me wrong, are terrible, most of the game, the Celtics are playing better than the Heat. Look, it is what it is. They're down. I get it. The Heat deserve all the credit. But there's been 2 quarters where the Celtics did not show up. But outside of that, the Celtics are playing better basketball than the Heat.
Hang the banner. We've won 2 quarters. Well, we've won 10 out of 12 quarters. Hang the banner. I understand Boston hasn't been able to hang many banners in the last 35 years. You're right. We did argue about the importance of quarters in NBA playoff games, most notably how you end quarters. Like in yesterday's Mavs-Warriors game, I thought the end of the first half was a massive moment when Steph took the terrible shot and then Luka hit the 3. It ended up not mattering. Yep. But I think the way you end quarters is critical. But that graphic is so misleading. It's like I've only had 2 moving violations in the last 12 years. Oh, really? You must be a pretty good driver. What happened in those? Well, I drove into houses. A car flipped over. I wrecked that. When you've lost 2 quarters so badly that it has directly caused you to lose both games, that is not well.
Yeah, not great.
They won 1 quarter by 7 and then lost by 4, lost by 3, lost by. That's not what's happening. They have let go of the rope and given up the game in the 3rd quarter of game 1 and in the 1st quarter of game 3. And this idea that we're counting quarter wins now as a way to find a way to justify that Boston's better when Miami was better in the regular season. Miami's been more injured and is better in this postseason. Like, what do you want from them? What more? My question to Brew is this, because Brew, you said this was going to be the Celtics' easiest series. What does Miami have to do to prove to you and others they're good? I'm just curious.
Did I say that? Yeah, I did, unfortunately.
Yeah, you said it was going to be their easiest
It's definitely
series.
not their easiest series. That's the one thing I take back from last week. I'm hanging in there with Celtics in 6. I still think they can win the series, but can they do it in 6? But look, Nick, they're going to have to – the thing with them is this. They're not your typical championship-type team. Jimmy Butler, is he a superstar? Is he just a star? Even if he – whatever you call him, he came from he averaged 2 points as a rookie, right? He's the 30th pick in the draft. And you don't generally see guys like that lead teams to championships. And then around him, like you mentioned, Strus and Vincent, not even drafted. P.J. Tucker, 2nd-round pick. So that's what we're seeing. But look, I think that Wilds, and I often say both of you are wrong on this show. I don't think I've ever said this. Both of you are right. Wilds is right, Nick. Oh. Boston is the better team. And the fact that they've won 7 of the quarters or tied 10 of the 12 shows that. But, Nick, you were right in that Deontay Wilder got outboxed by many people. But he had that one right hand that if he
Oh, they're all
catches you in
punching
round
chances back.
7 or round 9 or round 4, whatever, doesn't matter what happened for the other round with the knockout blow. And that's what Miami's been able to do twice in this series.
Just quickly, I just want to apologize to the audience. I've talked to my internet people. It's kind of weird what's going on. They said I should have a crystal clear connection for every time we talk Heat Celtics. But when we're doing Mavs or the Lakers nonsense, it could come and go. So I don't know what's happening exactly. I'm working with Spectrum. It's weird what's happening. But for Heat Celtics, I should be golden the rest of the way.
Unbelievable.
We'll see about the Mavs segment.
Glad we got to that. Hey, you just saw Wiggins dunk a few minutes ago. Luka was asked about it after the game. This was great. Take a listen to what he had to say.
That was impressive, I'm not gonna lie. I saw the video again, I was like, oof. That was pretty incredible, and I wish I had those bunnies.